comes a time when we should heed a certain cause, 'cause the world, it seems, is right in its love.
We give the listening ear with all rapt attention so that we'll benefit, from what we hear from our distinguished lecturer. I have wished that I will stay with you throughout this important occasion, but unfortunately, I will have to take leave because there are other pressing issues which I also have to attend. So, Mr. Chairman, the distinguished guest lecturer, student professor here, please, I'd like to take, with your permission, kindly allow me to walk out so that I attend the other important assignment before me. Thank you very much.
I now have the honor to invite Professor D. Obiegi to read the citation of the chairman for today's public lecture. Professor D. Obiegi.
Stand on the existing protocol to give the citation of the chairman, Alhaji Dr. Adamu Muazzam Fika, Waziring Fika. Sir, I would crave your indulgence to rise, please. No, the chairman of the occasion. Sorry, I crave your indulgence, sir. Good morning, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed a pleasure and a great privilege for me to read the citation and to also introduce our chairman for this public lecture in the person of Alhaji Dr. Adamu Muazzam Fika, the Waziri of Fika. It is a privilege for me to carry out this duty because he is known as a great teacher of the sciences. Not only that, a teacher of teachers, a one-time educational administrator extraordinaire, a legendary pioneer in the training of clerical and administrative staff, a seasoned civil servant and administrator who rose to the pinnacle of the administration cadre as head of the civil service of the Federation, a one-time chairman of the United Bank for Africa, a gentleman, dogged and committed in principles he believes in, unswerving in his resolve, an epitome of honesty and trustworthiness, as evidenced by his close relationship with the Emir of Fika, a man of the people, a conscience of his community. Born on 31st December 1933 at Lampo in Fika district, you see why it is a privilege for me to introduce him this morning. Alhaji Adamu Fika was a son of the district head of the Lampo village. He, maybe because he was the son of the village head, he went to school, as it was the practice in those days, as a quota for his father's, the representation of his father's quota. So he had to go to school. He had to go to school, but when he went to school, he did very well. He excelled. I thought I would get an applause for that. He went through the echelons of education, and this experience he had in school at the different levels have made him to be who he is today. As I said, a teacher of teachers I present to you, ladies and gentlemen, this morning, an administrator of administrators, an elder statesman, as I said, a conscience of the people, voices that we need today to speak out for us. I present to you the chairman for this occasion, ladies and gentlemen, Alhaji Dr. Adamu Muazzam Fika. Thank you very much. I thought we'll give him a standing ovation. Ladies and gentlemen, I could sit down, sir. I thought we'll give him a standing ovation. I thought we'll give him a standing ovation. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. You may be seated.
Thank you very much. Please, can we give Professor D. Obiegi another round of applause for that wonderful citation? Thank you very much. I now invite our own uncle, Malam Baffa, to give us citation of the guest speaker. Malam Baffa.
The chairman of this morning's occasion, in the person of Dr. Adamu Fika, Wazirin Fika, the Vice Chancellor in absentia, the Dean of the Faculty of Arts, other deans here present, heads of departments, professors, colleagues, and our dear students. I have the singular honor and pleasure of reading the citation of our guest lecturer today in the person of Dr. Bukar Usman. May I, sir, please request that you stand where you are. Mr. Chairman, other distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, especially ladies and gentlemen of the press, our dear students. I have the singular privilege to present this citation on Dr. Bukar Usman, a distinguished personality with an enviable record of public service, a prolific and accomplished author, an intellectual, and an indefatigable advocate of cultural preservation and promotion. Dr. Bukar Usman was born in Bello, Borno State, on the 10th of December, 1942. He had his education in Bello and Maiduguri from 1951 to 1963. He then proceeded to the prestigious King's College, Lagos, where he enrolled for his HSC. Between 1965 and 1966, at a very young age, Dr. Usman was able to earn his higher school certificate, referred to then as HSC. He was admitted into Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria, in 1966. He earned the Bachelor of Arts degree in Public Administration and International Studies in 1969. The NYSC had not started. Bukar Usman then went straight into the civil service, where he was appointed third-class clerk, and at the Federal Civil Service, with his acquisition of a university education, he was made an administrative officer, the equivalent of what we used to refer to as DO, district officer. He rose through the ranks from this post to become a director general, currently named permanent secretary in the presidency in 1988. Dr. Usman served in this capacity for 13 years until his retirement in 1999, having clocked 34 years of meritorious service in the Nigerian public sector. It is beyond doubt that this was a unique achievement in the Federal Civil Service. Due to his diligence and integrity during this distinguished career, Dr. Usman was a member or part leader of several federal delegations and committees, commissions on national security, on human rights issues, on labor relations, and peace missions within and outside the country. Between 1972 and 1999, for instance, Dr. Usman was secretary on the Committee on National Safety and Security, a member of the organizing committee of the Second World Black and African Arts and Culture, which we know as FESTAC, in 1975 to 1977. In 1986, he was a member of the Committee on Reorganization of National Security Organization, then known as NSO. Between 1995 to 1998, Dr. Usman was chairman of the Tripartite Committee on Labor Demands. Between 1996 to 1998, he was either an alternate leader of the 2 UN Commissions on Human Rights, as well as member of the OAU third government legal experts for the establishment of African Courts of Human and People's Rights. In 2001, Dr. Usman became a member of the Presidential Panel on National Security. It is to the credit of Dr. Usman that the history of Nigerian security system will not be complete without reference to his immense contribution at various levels. It is in the nature of public-spirited men that vocational feats and outward manifestation of a deeper motivation and latent intellectual and visionary power that the two converge in a manner most beneficial and beneficent to the society. It's not surprising, therefore, that Dr. Usman deployed his skill and creativity in learning and writing. These were talents that served him well in his school days and later account for the high quality of the numerous papers and memoranda he authored while serving as a cabinet secretary in the presidency, and the committees and commissions he served on. This cognitive capacity that enhanced his distinguished career culminated in the publication of 30 books of polemical, historical, cultural, and literary nature in English, in Hausa, between 1999 to 2012. Some of these books include Voices in a Choir, Issues in Democratization and National Stability, 1999. He wrote an autobiography on his life, Hatching Hopes, in 2006, My Literary Journey in 2013, The Girl-Child Education in BU Emirate last year, 2014. He has accordingly been admitted as an honorary member of the Abuja chapter of the Association of Nigerian Authors, ANA. He's been honored by the 11th Folklore Society, Nigerian Folklore Society Congress at Bayero University, Kano, in the year 2014, and elected president of the Nigerian Folklore Society. Dr. Usman was recently honored in Niamey, Niger, for his contribution to the development of literature and the Hausa language. So intense and passionate Dr. Usman's love for learning and cultural preservation, he founded the Bukar Usman Foundation in 2008 with the motto, Service to Humanity. One of the major works that he's been able to produce is a 627-page compendium of folktales called Taskartas Uniyoi, whose content is already the subject of many researches, undergraduate and postgraduate. The foundation he founded, this foundation has commissioned the collection and translation of folktales from all parts of Nigeria. And among the collections were folktales in Yoruba from the southwest, the Igbo in the southeast, the Hausa in the northwest, Fulfulde northeast, even up to Cameroon, where the researchers went to collect Fulfulde folktales. Terra, among the Terra group in Gombe and Borno states, the Zar group in Bauchi state. These collections are ongoing in the South-South and the North-Central and the FCT. It's indeed a mega pan-Nigerian collection drive which has been undertaken, which has never been undertaken or attempted in recent literary history. Dr. Usman is a colossus of a man with indelible footprints in the landscape of public service, learning and preservation of culture in Nigeria, and Africa and the world at large. Dr. Bukar Usman also has a national honor of OON. Mr. Chairman, sir, Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, fellow colleagues, our students, I present to you our distinguished guest lecturer, Dr. Bukar Usman. Thank you.
Public lecture, Dr. Bukar Usman, OON. Thank you, sir. Speech. Sorry, please, it's an oversight. It was not actually included in the program, but the chairman is the father of today's program, and we have to formally hand over this occasion to him. Yes, so I now invite our chairman, our father, our grandfather, Malam Dr. Adamu Fika, to deliver his speech, sir. You can sit there.
As the person who introduced the guest speaker, you can't get a better person to talk about these three subjects than Bukar Usman. And it's also timely, but in each case, we're at the lowest level, lowest web of leadership, of security, and of development. Now, my speech, it will not conflict with his own, because his own has an academic background. Mine is rather more practical, the kind of situation we are in and why we are in. Anyway, and I've known Bukar since 1975, I think, Bukar. I was 1975. When I was appointed permanent secretary, he was then principal secretary in the security, special service, we call it then, in charge of the funds of all these security people. These concepts, leadership and so on, leadership, security, and national development are basics in which a nation's well-being and survival are, among other facets, gauge on its continued existence as a sovereign state. And each of these concepts heavily depends on one another and combine to move the wheels of progress and development of a nation. It is fundamental to understand what these key concepts mean and its importance in national discourse. Leadership. Leadership simply means the ability and capacity to lead. Broadly, in all its multiple meanings, encompasses a wide range of activities and applies to the organization and management of both small and big political units. These activities include supervision, statesmanship, administration, and organization. In the affairs of men, leadership above all else holds the greatest potential for being the source and driving spirit of the society. And as good government hinges on good leadership, thus a leader is universally expected to be a guide, a pace setter, and a regulator. This is because whatever a leader does in the conduct of discharging his or her responsibilities must have an impact on the society in which he or she lives. Today, the most popular form of government is democracy, which is defined as the government of the people, for the people, and by the people. I'm not sure if I only get that. In simple assumption of its meaning, democracy empowers responsibility on a leader based on trust and common good of the people. Therefore, every action of such government bestowed with such trust must be guided by the general interest of the people under its leadership. Not even in democracy, the government to thrive in a good government, the interest of the people must be its guiding principle and source of pride. Again, I'm not sure if we are properly being guided. Above all, good leadership is what will guarantee attainment of such state of public, state of pride. In other words, good leadership is like a soul to democracy and rule of law. Having said all this, if we are to ask, what is the historical content of our leadership in this nation of ours? Nigerians often describe the vein to our political, social, and economic development to lack of good leadership. With nostalgia, Nigerians always refer back to the labors of their heroes past, not just to romanticize, but as an expression of protest to the manner in which the recent happening in the country diametrically parted ways from the exemplary leadership of the country's past. We need not double into the past at this juncture to continue making repeated references to the kind of strong-willed leadership this nation enjoyed, in spite of acknowledged challenges and limited resources. Limited resources our leaders had, very limited indeed. For instance, I think from 1954-55 financial year to 1965-66, well, 1954-55, when Nigeria formally became a federation comprised of the federal government and 3 regional governments, to 1965-66, when the military took over. The total revenue accruing to federal government was about 775 million pounds. 12 years, 775 million. The northern Nigeria government had about 242 million. The western Nigeria, 222 million. And the eastern Nigeria, 203 million. This was, in 12 years, the entire revenue of government. Compare those figures with what even a local government can get in 1 month. And yet, they led. And they provided services. Not only that, when in 1962, the first National Development Plan was launched, they found that if they continued to receive money in at the rate they are doing, and also spending it at that same rate also, they could not be in a position to implement the development plan properly. So they decided that they must, in fact, review, create more revenue sources, and also cut down on unnecessary expenditure. So they decided to introduce what they call like austerity measures, which would affect everybody, every Nigerian. But over and on top of that, they as leaders they decided to cut down their salaries by 10%. In a situation where you found a minister receiving far less than his own permanent secretary. Well, that's what they did that. And they continued like that until the end of their life, tenure was in 1966. So we had leaders. I think I also want to talk about the other thing, but maybe a constraint of time, I leave a thing like this, but it will form part of the record. But before I go back, I want to thank the person who read my citation. Thank you very much. I have great grandchildren also. They said great children. I said I have also great grand. Well, I think I better just leave time for the actual thing, but this one will form part of the program.
Another warm and beautiful round of applause for the chairman. Chairman, sir, I will now formally hand over our guest speaker to you to be presented. It's okay, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Giving me the mandate to continue. So I will now formally present to us our able speaker, distinguished speaker for today's very important public lecture. Once again, Dr. Bukar Usman, OON. Sir, may I invite you to the podium to present your lecture, sir.
Members of the academic, students, let me cut short the protocol. But at the same time, I would like to compliment what the MC had done on our chairman. She mentioned that the chairman is a principled civil servant. And as someone who has worked with him for several years, I would like to confirm that this is indeed the case. I'll give you a few examples before I go to my paper. The first is people who are historians here and who may want to trace the history of civil service reform, the most recent, referred to in 1988, would not forget the principled stand which the chairman took at that time and which has been borne out by time. The fears he expressed were indeed found to be true. And yet he took a principled stand even at the inconvenience to himself. The second is, well, leadership as well as tolerance. I'm citing his friendship with late S.B. Awoni. They were young officers during the First Republic in the office or in the government under Sardauna. S.B. Awoni, who is no more, had said, and in fact I have also confirmed that I went to the sitting room of S.B. Awoni in Abuja. I saw a mat, prayer mat. He's a Christian, but he has a prayer mat in the corner. He said these are for his friends. And who are his friends? The chairman.
Up to the time he died about a few years ago, they were related. He would go, it's time for prayer, they go to his corner of the room, and he says his prayers. So matter of religion did not matter in their relationship. In fact, S.B. Awoni said, even though he was a Christian, in the office of Sardauna bought him a Bible. And what was the religion of Sardauna? We can cite many examples. But what I would like to say today is that I'm privileged to be associated with a father figure, Alhaji Adamu Wazirin Fika. This is happening to me within 2 months. There was a reference that I was given honorary doctorate degree here. It is indeed true. But what impressed me on that occasion was the fact that I was associated with another father figure of Ali Monguna, who is now about 88 years old. In applauding the decision of the Ahmadu Bello University, which I would like to also express my gratitude, is the fact that Alhaji Shetima Ali Monguna was my teacher. He was our bassa. And yet I was associated with him to be honored. That I felt was highly grateful indeed. But he was later my minister in Ministry of Mines and Power back in 1969 to 70s. He exhibited high leadership and transparency. You know these days, Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. He was a Minister of Mines and Power. He was the one who was attending. But when we make an estimate for his travel allowance, once he goes back, he comes back from the meeting, he will retire any leftover to government posts. When we say, okay, this money has already been budgeted, he said, no, return it. Not only that, his predecessor, Dr. R.A.P. Diko, Russell Barrow Diko, who was a minister and I served under him, also exhibited another exemplary leadership. The same thing. When he travels overseas, he comes back, whatever remains, he will retire it to government. These are the type of people we are having and who have guided us in our service. As to today's paper, I am delivering it on 3 assumptions. I will make some few remarks. The discussant will, I hope, fill in some of the gaps. And the chairman will, at the end of the day, also make another contribution, I hope. And for the audience, the organizers of this lecture have tried to provide as many copies of the paper as possible, so don't struggle. If you don't get it in the hall, I'm sure Professor Kurate will make an effort to make extra copies for you. So whatever I miss out, and which I am going to rush because of time, you can read it at your own time and make up your opinion. The topic I'm approaching from African and global perspective. Security, one of the key words in the topic, is referring to survival of the individual. But currently it's not only survival, how well you are surviving. Some people are barely surviving. That is not meaning of security. In fact, you should have something surplus, which nothing will scare you. There is also duality in security.
of a country, for instance, that external and internal, but which one impacts on each other more is debatable. But you will form your own opinion as to whether the external one impacts greater on the internal. The uniqueness of any country's security depends on its geographical location as well as socio-political nature of the society. But its management of crisis depends on the effectiveness of government institutions and contributions of NGOs in conflict prevention and resolution. It also depends on the disposition and orientation of the leadership. Chairman has already referred to some of our misgivings these days. Social chaos is therefore a manifestation of system failure. Social chaos. Institutions are there, but if they fail, that is when chaos results. But you cannot determine that unless you dispassionately examine the situation to come a conclusion. At what point did the system fail before you can have chaos? You have a system in place, it's just like water supply. If water is not coming, what happens? Is it pumping the water, or there is no water in the well? And so, if you are considering any failure in security, you have to dispassionately look at what point there is a breakdown. Political scientists who are here, I am referring to some former political scientists in history who told us the nature of society, how society was formed. And I've cited in my paper two political thinkers, Thomas Hobbes and Locke. Thomas Hobbes told us how society was formed, that before we were all individuals roaming about in the bush. Everybody, survival of the fittest. And so we decided to form a society. And that is the beginning of society. When you form a society, you begin to talk of government. Government which will intervene to protect the weak and the strong. That is the purpose of government. Locke said, look, yes, government should be there, but it is not just government like that. It is a form of contract between the people and the government. There should be some